everybody. Dr. Rob Silverman here. Another episode of Proven Health Alternatives. I've got hybrid athlete, five-time Ironman, digital creator, fitness influencer, serial entrepreneur, Mr. Eric Hinman. How are you, Eric?
I'm doing great. How are you, Dr. Rob?
I couldn't be better. I'm so stoked to get you here. I mean, you're a busy guy. You're always working out. You're always promoting brands. You're always giving knowledge bombs. I'm really going to try and pick your brain just a little bit.
Let's do it. I see you have plants in the background there. We have plants all throughout our house. I really feel like that provides a healthy living habit and always puts a smile on my face whenever I see healthy plants around.
Outstanding. I've got the plants. I believe in that photosynthesis just like you do. It
Yep.
shows that we're in tune with the earth and the world.
Yep.
So tell me, recovery is huge. The older you get, the more you need to recover. What is your recovery routine like?
Yeah. So I'm 44 and I have been exercising twice a day most days since my late 20s when I recognized the importance of exercise beyond just the physical attributes and physical performance. It was really in my late 20s when I recognized that it was yielding energy, mental well-being, emotional well-being, better sleep, better eating decisions, and I was attracting amazing people into my life.
Hmm.
So, I've really stuck with wellness for many of those reasons, and I enjoy exercise. So, in order to exercise twice a day, and I'm typically doing a CrossFit workout 4 to 5 days a week in the morning, and then some kind of aerobic activity like mountain biking or trail running in the afternoon, I have to really prioritize recovery. And I mean, I would say the first tool for recovery is sleep. That's something that anyone can do.
Outstanding.
And, if you treat it like a job, it's something that, most of us can do well. And I get that, people are juggling glass balls they can't drop, like family, kids, career. But I do think that, if you're getting at least seven, and I ideally like to get 8+ hours
Hmm.
of sleep every single night, I think it sets you up to be the best version of yourself. So I prioritize sleep. I get to bed around the same time most nights, 8:30, 9 o'clock, and then I'm up at 5:30 or 6, no alarm clock. I try not to drink too much water before I go to bed, so I'm not waking up in the middle of the night. And I really prioritize that for recovery and sleeping in a cool, dark environment. I think that's key. And then my actual recovery routine is doing 2 to 3 rounds of contrast therapy every single night. And for those unfamiliar with contrast therapy, that's going from a hot object like a sauna or a steam room or a hot Epsom salt bath into something cold. It could be, an ice bath, a cold stream. And the setup that we have at our house is a Sisu sauna that we run at about 190 degrees Fahrenheit. And we have an ice barrel that holds cold water, and we have a chilling unit, pump and filter, and we keep that in the low 40s. And I'll
Hmm.
typically do about 20 minutes in that sauna at 190, and then about 3 minutes in the ice barrel in the low 40s. And again, 2 to 3 rounds of that. And I do that in the evening around 4:30 to 5. And I do it with others. It's one of the reasons why I enjoy that instead of other recovery modalities is the community aspect. We have people who
Right.
come over to our house almost every single night and join us for the contrast therapy. And, I get my human connection fix with it as well.
Outstanding. You brought up some really good points about contrast therapy, improved circulation, reduced muscle stiffness, accelerated recovery, enhanced metabolism, stress reduction. It's really used to avoid sports injuries and to treat sports injuries. Now,
Mhm.
what's most interesting is you do the sauna. Now, I thought you did hot, like a hot bath or something like that, but you're doing a sauna
Yes, correct.
on Muscle Mountain, correct?
Yeah, we call our house Muscle Mountain. We're
Outstanding.
outside of Denver, Colorado, and have a beautiful view of the Front Range Mountains.
Yeah, I was looking at one of your YouTubes. It was outstanding. In addition to that, you said you started to do this in your late 20s. You have
Mhm.
some interesting before and after pictures. I mean, you were fine in your late 20s. Now you're kind of sinewy, you're ripped.
Yeah. Yeah, it started with triathlon. Well, I mean, it started with a personal trainer. I was pretty out of shape in my late 20s, and it was my fault. I didn't have any education around healthy eating. I was eating McDonald's for breakfast, Subway for lunch, and a giant bowl of pasta for dinner. Wasn't getting great sleep, was drinking heavily on the weekends, and was sitting a lot. I was driving 50,000 plus miles a year, selling insurance, which was my first career. And then in my late 20s, I hired a personal trainer. I committed to going and seeing him 5 days a week for 30-minute sessions. Ironmans. And he had me doing functional lifts along with anaerobic cardio. So things like squatting and deadlifts and bench
Wow.
press and overhead pressing. And then at the end, I would do these intervals, rowing, run intervals, just like highly anaerobic, high heart rate things, short periods with rest in between. And over a 6 month period, aesthetically, I got back into decent looking shape. And then I found triathlon and I just became obsessed with
Wow.
triathlon. I did a distance triathlon with, no biking and no swimming background. I had to backstroke and side stroke my way through the triathlon. Then did a Olympic distance, then a half Ironman, then a full Ironman, and over a 4 year period, I went from this out of shape insurance salesman to towing the line at the Ironman World Championships, and it was just from really dedicating my life
Wow.
to a coach and just executing on a training plan.
Tremendous epiphany, right?
It was, yeah. And, that's when I also recognized that correlation between exercise, eating healthy, getting better sleep, and just how great I was feeling.
So you have all these longevity hacks, these performance hacks, if you will. You talked about recovery, the fuel, food. Good
Mhm.
food is a potentiator for performance. Bad food, potentiator for poor performance. What's your diet like?
Yeah, I mean, it's not rocket science. Single ingredient food sourced from nature. That's the bulk of my diet. So, just think of yourself as a caveman. What would you eat if, all of these things that we've manufactured didn't exist? So, I eat meat, I eat eggs, I eat dairy, I eat fruit, I love honey, I like maple syrup. I look forward to the things I eat every single day, but, it's kind of a blend of those things. I eat vegetables for carbs, potatoes, and rice. And I eat around the same times each day and pretty similar things. I think the other key is putting it on autopilot, not making too many decisions around food. We will go out to eat here and there if we're traveling. I certainly go out to eat, but if I'm home here in Colorado, then, I'm cooking most of my meals and I'm not thinking about it. I just kind of know exactly what I'm going to have after my gym session. I'm probably going to have some eggs, fruit, and honey, and then I'm going to have a smoothie after my afternoon mountain bike ride, and then I'm going to have a steak and potatoes and some vegetables for dinner at night, and then I'll snack on fruit and honey before bed if I'm still hungry.
So let's delve into that a little bit because I have so many guests on carnivore, vegan, paleo, keto, Mediterranean, flexitarian, the whole bit. So you don't adhere to any kind of diet idea other than a single ingredient, no ultra processed foods.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. I have dabbled in various specific diets over the years, but I think it's very individualistic what works for someone. And, I think a lot of it too is based on your goals. In my Ironman years, I was eating a high fat diet because at the time I was trying to teach my body to burn fat for fuel, which I had read was good for endurance. And the last 5 years, I've been doing a lot more strength training and CrossFit workouts. And in order to fuel the strength in those highly anaerobic workouts, I need more carbs and need more protein if I want to put on strength and muscle mass. So, I've shifted my diet to a higher protein diet more recently,
Mm.
higher carb diet more recently. And then when I was competing in Ironman 10 years ago, it was a higher vegetable and higher fat diet. So, I think it's good to ebb and flow based on what your goal is. And then also, what do you have access to?
Right.
What do you enjoy? What is sustainable?
So your steak, potatoes, eggs, fruit, vegetables. So for Ironman, you used more of fats for endurance. Am I correct?
I did, because you're going at such a low output for such a long period of time, and you want to have really good oxidization when you're competing in endurance sports. I think lately people have been pushing it, to higher and higher
Mhm.
outputs. And now you see athletes that are doing upwards of 120 grams of carbs per hour and competing in these races.
Wow.
But they're also like they've built up their muscle endurance to a tremendous point. These guys that are running in the, mid 5 minute per mile range in a 50
Wow.
mile race. I mean, that's just wild to be able to do that. And you certainly need carbs if you're going at that high output. When I was competing in Ironman, my heart rate was typically between 130 and 135 in my training training sessions, and then maybe upwards of like 138 when I was racing a full Ironman. So, that's fat burning zone for me. So, that's why I was eating that high fat diet is I just wanted my body to be really efficient at burning fat for fuel. And not to say during a race I didn't have carbs and sugar. I certainly did, but
Do
in most of my training sessions and my typical diet during that time period, it was a high fat diet and it worked well.
you intermittent fast by chance? But that's kind of hard for you because you're always working out twice a day. I mean, you said twice a day. They're not twice a day, 20-minute workouts.
Yeah.
Your workouts are twice a day. It seems like they're like 2-hour workouts.
Yeah, the morning workout in the gym is 60 to 80 minutes, and that's strength training and then high intensity intervals or CrossFit Metcon at the
Okay.
end. And then the afternoon workout is that 130 heart rate, and that's usually 60 to 90 minutes. Sometimes it's longer. I do the Leadville mountain bike race every year. So during the summer months, I typically am doing longer zone two sessions, and the winter months, I'm doing more strength training and anaerobic conditioning. As far as fasting, I mean, I've never done a full day or a multi-day fast, and I don't have eating windows per se, but I do not snack very often. I'm typically
Right.
just eating 3 square meals a day, and then in the evening, and I'm not saying this is the best, but I will snack on like some fruit and honey before I go to bed. I've found that it just helps me sleep better with my high level of activity. Um, but yeah, no, I haven't ever done eating windows or any significant fasting, but I'm not snacking throughout the day. I'm just, eat a square meal and then be done with it until the next meal.
Let's do a little rapid fire. Let's meet Eric Hinman. You ready?
I'm ready.
Your favorite exercise in CrossFit?
Probably clean and jerk.
The best exercise for somebody like me who's trying to just have some muscle mass as they age?
Squatting, back squat or front squat.
Squatting. Okay. Not deadlift reformers, but the squat. Okay. I'm
Hmm.
with you. Your favorite source of protein?
A ribeye.
Mm, I should have asked your favorite healthy source of protein. So you eat ribeyes.
Ribeyes, strip steaks. I would say 80% of the time New York strips, 20% of the time ribeyes when I'm eating red meat.
Favorite exercise in a triathlon?
Bike.
So you're a biker.
I am a biker. I love mountain biking. That's my favorite thing I do now.
Best choice for someone like me to get into shape of the exercises on a triathlon.
Strength training and high intensity interval training on machines. So like row intervals, assault bike intervals, something where, there's no skill and, very minimal risk of injury.
Supplements. What do you suggest? What do you take?
Creatine, at least 5 grams daily.
Okay.
Um, I'm a huge believer in caffeine or some kind of nootropic. And then at night, I like melatonin, L-theanine, GABA, something that helps me sleep better. My favorite supplements are things that help with a certain behavior. So caffeine, nootropics, they help with my ability to focus and exercise and be
Absolutely.
productive in meetings and on podcasts. And, at night, sleep is so important to me. And, 15 years ago, I started taking sleep supplements and I was having trouble sleeping because of the high volume of exercise that I was doing. If you think I exercise a lot now, I exercised almost double back then. And, my nervous system was just so ramped up at night. So, I would just do almost anything to sleep better. And, I found various sleep supplements that helped with it.
It's a brilliant combination, theanine and melatonin. One, I am pro melatonin. I know there are people out there that are not, like a David Sinclair. He's entitled to his opinion. I
Mhm.
disagree with it. I think that the data is robust for melatonin, not just for sleep, but also for intervertebral disc, anti-inflammation, autophagy, and a myriad of other things. In addition, when you mix it smartly, like you did with theanine, it passes the blood-brain barrier.
Mhm.
Now, creatine, I like also. I actually wrote my thesis on creatine. I love it because it gives a lot of energy to the body, ATP. The big question, I'll ask what you do. There's no right or wrong answer. Do you take the creatine before or after your workout?
So I typically do both. Typically, I'll do three to
Same.
five grams pre and 3 to 5 grams post.
Love that answer. I love that answer. What about your hydration, your water intake, things like that? People are going to want to know. They're going to take a look at what you do, how you look, where you came from, and they're going to say, no, this guy, he's just genetics. He did a couple of push-ups, and they don't know the effort that you put in, the system that you've implemented. But one of the things I want to know is definitely the hydration.
Yeah, key for me. I drink a lot of water around my sauna sessions.
Mm.
Sometimes upwards of 2 gallons. Um, we're made of water, so I think it's incredibly important to make sure that you're getting enough water in. For myself, I know it would be better if I had it in smaller doses throughout the day. I'm not great at that. I'm typically having it more in bulk doses. So, evenings is when I'm doing my sauna session. That's by far when I am the most thirsty. So, I'll have a half-gallon jug with me around the sauna sessions, and I'll go through at least two of those. And then usually after the gym, I'll drink water with my meal after the gym. And then at dinner, I'll have some more water as well. And then I'm putting in electrolytes as well, trying to get at least around 1,000 milligrams of sodium around those sauna sessions. And, again, I think these are really individualistic. Like I'm sweating a lot with a couple workouts a day in that sauna session. So I probably need a lot more hydration than someone who isn't doing all of that in a day. But, there's talk more about it of, based upon your exertion level, approximately how many electrolytes and how much hydration you should have to replenish it.
Outstanding. So, just a quick note from our sponsor. This podcast is sponsored from Professional Corp, which was established in 2001. He provides appropriately licensed clinicians with access to major lab services for a fraction of typical costs, with service that exceeds expectations, no fees of any kinds, no minimums, and never a change for anything but a completed test. I personally use professional labs, and your website is www.professionalcorp.com. Give it a whirl. Well, back to the good stuff.
I think
Serial entrepreneur. It's impressive. You're from Syracuse, New York. Of course, you're from New York, but that's not like really New York, is it? Because like I'm from the city. So
mm,
you're from upstate. Does it really count? I mean, do you have a
way
football team?
Way upstate. I actually grew up in a really small town called Pulaski, New York. I graduated with about 85 kids, a town of 1,400 people. I grew up snowmobiling, fishing on Lake Ontario, boating on Lake Ontario, played three sports. I played basketball, I ran cross country and ran
Hmm.
track. And then most of my professional career was in Syracuse. I went to college at Geneseo State School in Rochester, New York, and then moved to Syracuse and built my first businesses in Syracuse. And yeah, I mean, it's New York, but it's not New York. It's definitely very different from New York City and even Westchester, much slower pace of life, much more
Absolutely.
farmland and country. But I enjoyed it. It was a great place to start businesses. There's definitely a entrepreneurial culture there with Cornell and Syracuse University. And
Right.
one of my businesses was a technology company called Rounded. We were building mobile applications for clients, and five of my business partners were Syracuse University students. This is when I was in my late 20s and early 30s when I was co-running that business.
Hmm.
And I enjoyed it because we had a tech garden there and, low cost of living and low cost of labor, low cost of real estate. So,
Right.
great place to start businesses without, the massive overhead of major cities.
Tell me about some of your brands that you're involved with now because you're a brand ambassador.
Yep. So I'm an ambassador and an investor in many brands. Some of the brands I work with and also have invested in are 10,000, the men's apparel brand based out of New York City, actually. Create Creatine, which they're based out of New York City as well. Masa Chips, which is a
Yummy.
organic corn, a beef tallow, and salt, just three ingredient chips. I work with Sweet Green, popular fast casual
Yep.
restaurant. They actually just came out with some new fries today that are, minimal ingredients. It's actually fries and not 18 ingredients. Um, I'm an investor in Kane, which is a footwear company. They make active recovery footwear. They look kind of like Crocs, super comfy for hot climates, great for travel. Um, Slate, I'm an investor in, which is a lactose-free chocolate milk and protein
Wow.
beverage.
Great.
I work with Elements. I work with Row Nutrition, which is a supplement company. I work with Timeline Longevity, which is a mitochondrial health company. They have
Hmm.
15 years of clinical studies around mitochondrial health. And I really like working with early stage companies. Beyond the content, since I've started many businesses myself and I've raised money for businesses and I've invested in businesses, I really like to act as more of a consultant. And I've found my way with these earlier stage companies where I can offer all of these other things that I've learned over the years. I can offer my network. I can offer connections to other investors, just all of the things a new company would need. And I enjoy, building community around companies. We're doing this underwear run on Lady Bird Lake in Austin for South by Southwest next weekend for NADS, which is an organic cotton underwear company. So just like thinking of like unique community events that we can do to bring awareness to brands that I perceive to be doing really cool things.
Oh man, that's exciting. For those 20 and 30-year-olds who are listening, who want that entrepreneurial life, how do you start? What books did you read? What skill set did you acquire to make this so successful in your life?
Yeah, I think the biggest skill set was not being afraid to take risks. So my father set me off when I was 21 years old to go sell insurance in upstate New York. And I literally was going door to door with a suit and tie on,
Wow.
selling insurance to campgrounds and marinas. And as you can imagine, like I heard no quite a bit, but you develop a tolerance to it. And then when you start to hear some yeses and you start to build a book of business and you can start having people refer you to others, that's when you're like, oh, okay, it was worth all of those no's. It was worth, just cutting my teeth and developing that resilience to, being let down or hearing no from people. So I think the best thing to do is just start. Go out and talk to people. I mean, whenever, a 23-year-old entrepreneur reaches out to me on Instagram and they DM me and they're like, hey, would love to help you on this. And I have these questions for you. I'm like, let's chat. Like, I love people who are
Mm.
willing to reach out. And, I think many in a position to give back want to give back. Like we want to help other people. I love seeing other people succeed. And I love knowing that, I either was able to help someone or I was able to help someone with a connection I have to allow them to just push the ball. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to start something. Don't be afraid to share your dreams so that you have accountability to, do it.
Eric Hinman said, if you DM him, you heard him, he'll answer you.
I
Ask
will.
nicely. Talk about being an entrepreneur. Your time, probably your most valuable asset. One thing that's fleeting. Most successful business people, athletes, block their time. They have a true schedule. I mean, even somebody like The Rock gets up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Marky, I won't call him Marky Mark. I remember him like that. Mark Wahlberg, excuse
Yeah.
me. He gets up at 3:30. How do you block your time?
Yeah, I think time blocking is so important, and I talk about this often on social media. So my calendar is blocked out the entire day. I do certain things at certain times. So from 6 a.m. until 8:30, that is my creative time. That's when I know I'm going to have the least amount of messages coming in, the least distractions, and that's oftentimes when I'll write a newsletter, when I'll come up with some creative content posts when I'll think about an event I have coming up and just brainstorm ideas for it. And then 8:30, I leave for the gym. I'm generally training from about 9 until 10:30 in the morning. That's always blocked out for, morning gym session. And then from 10:30 until about 1:30, that's when I'm taking calls, doing podcasts, answering messages, just kind of executing. And I know I have about a 3 hour window of being really productive, and then I'll start to fade. So then I go out, I get in the sun, and I'm mountain biking, trail running, doing something in the mountains just to kind of reset and also to get that aerobic activity and sunlight in for the day. And from about 3 until 4:30 or 5, another block of answering messages,
Mm.
calls, podcasts. And then around 5 o'clock, people start showing up to our house, Muscle Mountain, to do contrast therapy. And, that acts as both my recovery routine, but also community time. And that's when I take in-person meetings. Someone new who's messaged me, so a brand that wants to work with me, an entrepreneur that's passing through Denver. I always invite them to come over and sauna. So most nights there's anywhere from 4 to 10 people over here doing contrast therapy with us. And then I barbecue at the house. Some people usually stay over and we have just
Mm.
kind of a communal dinner. And then from 7:45 until like 8:30, I usually try and learn something. So either read a book, watch YouTube, listen to a podcast, and then
Mm.
8:30, 8:45, wind down, sleeping by 9:15, rinse and repeat.
Wow. It just shows how structured you are. It,
It's
it,
key.
it's key. Are there any books or recommendations for that young aspiring entrepreneur that they could read to kind of lock in some of the strategies that you've utilized to be so successful?
Yeah, a couple are Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think that's a very important book to read. Never Eat Alone, I think, is a really important book to read. Yeah, I like Tim Ferriss's books a lot about just
Does a
time
great job.
management and, the ability to execute. Tools of Titans is another good one where you can learn from others. And then, I really just enjoy listening to podcasts, and, it can range from, someone on Joe Rogan's podcast that I'm
Right.
interested in learning from to, Huberman, who's really speaking about science, to
Yeah.
my buddy Dr. Jeremy London, who's a heart surgeon who
Great.
speaks about cardiovascular health. So, podcasts for me really range based on, what I'm interested in the moment.
Yeah, I agree with you on all of those. And a special note of Jeremy London, he's really captivated the audience. You're seeing a doctor get out there and he's being real, if you will, and he's giving you true, tangible, implementable needs.
Mhm.
Cardiovascular disease, the number one killer in America today, and yet less than half of America knows that. Crazy.
That is.
Um, and I see that exercise is the backbone of your success. So I'm
Mhm.
sure you would say, well, Rob, you don't have to exercise 2 to 4 hours a day like I do, but at
Mhm.
least get 30 to 60 minutes. I
Spot
appreciate
on.
your time. I know that you structured your time. I'm watching the clock. So here's my question. I have my buddy in Switzerland. He watches all my podcasts. He listens, he watches, and he always asks, Rob, ask your astute guest right at the end, give me 3 takeaways from what he discussed that I can implement to make myself better tomorrow. The
I
stage
love
is
that.
yours.
Yeah, three takeaways would be, I do think that exercise is the top of the food chain. It was for me. It enabled so many other dominoes to fall in place. Without exercise, I probably wouldn't have started eating as healthy. I probably wouldn't have focused as much on sleep. I wouldn't have implemented all of these recovery modalities. And each of those things, they were a year process to really implement and make it habitual. It wasn't like I did them all at once, but I think exercise was the top of the food chain. So I would say, number one, if you're not exercising, figure out some kind of movement that you can back up day in and day out that you enjoy. And ideally, you're doing it with others that you enjoy being around. I think number two would be not getting overwhelmed, specifically with this wellness. Pick one thing to tackle, focus on the next. I wouldn't say that I really have motivation or any kind of, crazy discipline. It's just habit. I've done these things long enough that they've become habitual, and now I don't think about them. I don't think about, eating healthy. I don't think about, trying to get good sleep every night. I don't think about my morning workout. They're just habitual. I
Yeah.
do them at the same times each day. And then number three, I would say time blocking. If you're not
Mm.
time blocking right now, try and figure out an itinerary where you're putting your best foot forward. So this is one thing we didn't talk about is I really try to prioritize things based on when I think I'm going to be able to do them best. So, that morning workout, it's one of the hardest things I do each day. A CrossFit workout is not easy. Lifting
Mm.
heavy weights and doing anaerobic stuff. I fade throughout the day, so I like getting that done early in the day when I have the most amount of energy and the most amount of motivation to push hard. And then I know that after that workout, that's when my mind is just going to be firing on all cylinders. So that's why I prioritize all of these fast, actionable tasks right after my workout. So, figure out, a structure that allows you to be the best version of yourself and a structure that allows you to be purposeful. We have short lives.
Yeah.
Figure out, what your purpose is and how to build your day around all of those things that are really purposeful for you.
It's funny. I'm very fortunate being a podcast host. I get to deal with a lot of successful people like yourself. And there's some commonalities: purpose, mission, strategy, organization, two-way street. So, what's next for Eric Hinman?
Yeah, we're building a house in Austin right now, so that's a big project for this year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a proponent of your environment dictating your reality, and I love Colorado. And here the environment begs me to be outside all the time, playing in the mountains. And when I'm in Austin, there's just so many people in our field there, so many
Yeah.
people into wellness, so many podcasters, so many creators, so many like new media personalities, so many investors. So we're building a home there. We're planning on spending 6 months of the year there. And
Sure.
I just know by being in that ecosystem, I'm going to be able to attract more opportunities and more amazing, interesting people into my life by being a part of the Austin city life.
Beautiful city, man. I hope to meet you there soon. I'd love to join you. They've got that vibe, that really great vibe. You've been outstanding. I really appreciate you putting that offer out for anybody who wants to contact you. Everybody, we've got 5-time Ironman, CrossFit advocate, serial entrepreneur, success magnet, Eric Hinman. I'm Dr. Rob Silverman, Proven Health Alternatives.